Human life is easy prey to a plethora of diseases. For the sick and the ailing, life is a long haul of suffering and misery. The relief for the traumatized comes from the compendiums of knowledge codified into medical systems since time immemorial. Several civilizations across time have come up with different systems of treating diseases. Of these, Ayurveda is a living medical system that is known to have evolved during the Vedic period in around 4000 BC. It continues to be as relevant today as it was in the past. With a holistic approach to life and health, Ayurveda continues to hold its pride of place.
The word Ayurveda is coined from two Sanskrit words, Ayu, which means life, and Veda means knowledge or science. Thus Ayurveda is the science of life. It has two distinct aims of maintaining health and curing diseases. These aims are called Swastha Vritta and Atura Vritta respectively.
Swastha Vritta deals with the Dinacharya, that is, the codes and conducts to be followed in day-to-day life. Ritucharya is all about the precautions to be observed in different seasons. Atura Vritta deals with the treatment of diseases.
Accordingly, Ayurvedic treatment is categorized into two major divisions, namely Urjaskara Chikitsa, which deals with the promotion of health, and Rogamut Chikitsa, which deals with the cure of diseases.
Ayurveda has 8 specialized branches of treatment known as Ashtangas. These are Kaya Chikitsa, Shalya Tantra, Shalakya Tantra, Kaumara Bhritya, Bhuta Vidya, Agata Tantra, Rasayana Tantra, and Vajikarana. Kaya Chikitsa, that is, internal medicine, deals with the diagnosis, prevention and treatment of systemic diseases like pyrexia, bleeding disorders, skin disease and the like, which are mainly caused by the disturbance in digestion and metabolism. Shalya Tantra deals with the management of all types of physical injuries, abscesses, ulcers and foreign bodies. Shalakya Tantra is ophthalmology and otorhinolaryngology. It deals with the management of diseases of neck, head, throat, nose, ears and eyes. Kaumara Bhritya stands for pediatrics, gynecology and obstetrics. Bhuta Vidya deals with psychiatric disorders which are believed to be caused by exogenous agents. Agata Tantra is toxicology, which deals with the management of various kinds of poisons and delayed toxicity. Rasayana Tantra is rejuvenation therapy aimed to promote lifespan, prevent premature aging, and to achieve excellence in intellect, strength, and other desired qualities. Vajikarana is andrology. It deals with the correction of seminal errors and enhancement of sexual potency. Among all these, Kaya Chikitsa, which deals with the diagnosis, prevention and treatment of systemic diseases caused by the disturbance in digestion and metabolism, is the most widely practiced branch. Kaya Chikitsa has three divisions, namely Nidana Parivarjana, Shamana and Shodhana.
Nidana Parivarjana deals with the etiological factors which aggravate the disease and the advice to patients to confine to Pathya and Apathya, which stands for a list of do's and don'ts respectively. Shamana denotes pacifying the dysfunction of the disturbed tissues within the body. Shodhana literally means purification. This treatment cleanses the body of all types of impurities.
Ayurveda believes that Shamana treatment alone does not rule out the possibility of recurrence of the disease, especially in chronic cases. Therefore, a combination of Shamana and Shodhana procedures are to be followed for complete cure. This combination of Shamana and Shodhana is called Panchakarma. According to Ayurveda, there are three basic humours or functional units called doshas in every living organism. These are Vata, Pitta and Kapha. These three doshas are responsible for different physiological and psychological functions in any living being. Vata dosha is the functional unit which controls the body and regulates all types of movements in the body. The major seat of Vata is the Pakwashaya in the region of the large intestine where digested food material is present. From the Pakwashaya, the Vata moves to all parts of the body. The other important sites of action of Vata are the bladder, legs, feet, bones, waist and all of the sensory organs. Its action is mainly on the sensory organs of hearing and touch. Pitta dosha facilitates the functions of digestion and metabolism in the body. The main seat of action of Pitta is the Nabhi, that is, sites like the smaller intestine, where active digestive processes take place. Pitta controls the appetite, thirst, intelligence, cognitive power, heat, softness and complexion of the body. The other major sites of action of Pitta are the lower part of the stomach, liver, spleen, blood, lymph, skin, sweat glands and organs of vision. The Kapha, the third of the doshas, is responsible for uniting the tissues and giving firm structure and nourishment to the body. It has Urasa, that is, the chest and the upper part of the stomach, as its major seat. Its other important sites are the neck, head and joints.
When these three doshas are in equilibrium, a person will be in a healthy state. When the equilibrium gets disturbed, diseases begin to appear. The disequilibrium is caused by external agents called Nidana, which creates Mala, the impurities in the body. The major causes that create impurities are unhealthy food, environment, dust, smoke and lack of exercise, just to name a few. Therefore, Ayurveda seeks to cleanse the body of the disease causing impurities rather than treating the symptoms of ailments. and the process of purifying the body by expelling all morbid and toxic matters to restore the harmony of the doshas essential to the healthy state is known as panchakarma.
Panchakarma is an integral part of Kaya Chikitsa. Literally, Panchakarma means 5 actions. Pancha means 5 and karma is action or therapy. Panchakarma, that is pentabio-purification therapy, is a combination of 5 distinct therapeutic procedures. The first one is Vamana, that is emetic therapy. In this process, vomiting is induced by the oral administration of certain drugs to eliminate the impure doshas through the mouth. The second one is Virechana, that is purgative therapy. It is the elimination of impure doshas through the anal route by administering medicines orally. Vasti is the elimination of doshas from the Pakwashaya through therapeutic enema. The fourth procedure in Panchakarma is Nasya, that is Erhine therapy. In this process, the vitiated doshas situated mainly in the regions of head and neck are eliminated through the nasal orifices. The last of the therapeutic procedures in Panchakarma is Rakta Moksha, that is bloodletting. This process employs either surgical instruments or leeches to eliminate the vitiated doshas from the body.
Before performing Panchakarma, it is necessary to prepare the patient biologically to expel the accumulated impurities from the system. This process is called Purvakarma or pre-operative measures. Purvakarma involves 2 procedures, Snehana or oleation therapy and Svedana or sudation therapy. The word Snehana is derived from Sneha, which means oiliness, lubrication and viscidity. Thus, Snehana involves application of oily substances. In Snehana therapy, the oily substances are administered internally as well as externally. The internal administration of oil is known as Abhyantara Snehana and external application is referred to as Bahya Snehana.
When Sneha is derived from plants, it is known as Stavara Sneha. One example is the Taila or the oil derived from sesame. When the oil is derived from animals, it is called Jangama Sneha. Grita or ghee obtained from the clarified milk of cow or buffalo is considered to be the best of all Snehana substances. It has the power to effectively assimilate the properties of other substances without losing its own qualities. Apart from ghee, the other commonly used Sneha substances are Taila, that is sesame oil, Vasa, that is muscle fat, and Majja or bone marrow. Usually ghee processed with medicine is used. This has the ability to yield better results in Sneha procedures.
Abhyantara Snehana is mandatory in most cases. It is indicated for persons who excessively indulge in sex, physical and mental exercises and consumption of alcohol. It has to be followed in the case of patients who are underweight, deficient in blood and semen and those who are in a state of constant worry. It is also indicated for the aged and the children. Internal Snehana is mainly performed in Vata disorders. Abhyantara Snehana is contraindicated in the case of patients with excessive kapha and meda, that is fat. Patients suffering from ascites, diarrhea, throat disease and those who are weak, unconscious and intoxicated are not given internal Snehana. It is also contraindicated for pregnant women, abortion and for patients who are currently undergoing Vasti, Nasya and Virechana therapies and those who have a low appetite. Selection of a suitable Sneha is extremely important in Purva Karma. The best suitable Sneha is selected depending upon the nature of disease, the season, physical and mental constitution of the patient, and the predominance of the concerned dosha. In the case of internal snehana, the dose of sneha has to be determined carefully according to the digestive power of the patient. After ensuring that the food taken in the previous day has been digested, the patient is given abhyantara snehana. The commonly accepted method of abhyantara snehana is the oral administration of oils.
The patient has to be prepared for abhyantara snehana. A day before the commencement of snehana therapy, the patient is given limited quantities of warm liquid food which do not produce excess moisture in the body. Patients with irregular appetites have to be given buttermilk or dry food articles to create dryness in the body. This process, known as rukshana, makes the snehana more effective. Rukshana is also recommended in the cases of patients with excessive muscles, excess fat, and kapha. Abhyantara snehana can be administered in any of the three ways, depending on the disease and the body constitution of the patient. The chosen sneha could be administered without mixing with food. Such a method is known as Acha Snehapana and is considered to be the best because of its immediate effect. Some patients may have a natural dislike for Acha Snehapana. In such cases, the sneha can be mixed with other food for easy intake. This method, known as Vicharana Snehapana, is to be followed in the case of patients with Mridu Koshta, that is, low digestive power. It is also preferred in the case of alcoholic patients. In the case of children, the old and the weak, another method called Sadhya Sneha can be followed. Here, the sneha can be laced with palatable food items such as meat soup or gruel with sesame seed powder or milk, or preparations containing ghee or curd. The sneha has to be administered early in the morning on an empty stomach after the patient has satisfied his natural urges. After the completion of sneha, the patient should be made to consume warm water to help digestion of the sneha. After a few hours rest, the patient can be given a small quantity of gruel if he or she is hungry. The administration of Abhyantara Snehana has to be continued by increasing the dose for a period of 3 to 7 days, depending on the patient's digestive power. If extended beyond 7 days, the sneha will become a diet and will lose its therapeutic value.
During the course of Abhyantara Snehana, patients have to be on a controlled diet. They should abstain from heavy and spicy food, should not sleep during the daytime, should sleep well in the night, should not stop natural urges, and should not indulge in sex. When the Abhyantara Snehana is perfect, certain symptoms can be noticed. These are proper functioning of vata, improvement in digestion, unctuous and loose stool, oiliness and softness of the body, fatigue and aversion towards further sneha. When these symptoms are observed, the snehana is called Samyak Snehana. Dry and hard stool, improper functioning of vata, poor digestion and persisting roughness and dryness of body are the symptoms of Asamyak Sneha or under-oleation. In the case of Adhisnehana or over-oleation, the symptoms are the following: heaviness, dullness, anorexia, nausea, unformed stool, pallor, drowsiness, and a passage of undigested sneha material through the body orifices. Samyak Sneha indicates that the impurities present in the body are well soaked with the sneha materials. Now, these impurities have to be expelled from the body by bringing them to the nearest orifice of the appropriate part of the gastrointestinal tract. The procedures involved in bringing them to gastrointestinal tract will be dealt in the next unit of the program. Let us now take a look at what we have discussed so far. We had an overview of the 8 branches of Ayurveda known as Ashtangas. Of these, Kaya Chikitsa deals with the diagnosis, prevention and treatment of systemic diseases. Panchakarma, an essential part of Kaya Chikitsa, has to be preceded by Purva Karma. Purva Karma is the process of preparing the patients biologically to expel the accumulated impurities from the body. Purva Karma involves 2 methods. These are Snehana, that is application of oily substances, and Svedana, that is sudation. In Snehana therapy, the oily substances are administered internally as well as externally. The internal administration of oil is known as Abhyantara Snehana, and external application is referred to as Bahya Snehana. We have discussed the indications and contraindications of the Abhyantara Snehana, and also we have learned about the symptoms of perfect and imperfect Snehana. And before you attend the second unit that deal with Bahya Snehana and Svedana, read the book suggested here and answer the questions. Take care.
The books for reference are Charaka Samhita by Agnivesha, published by Chaukamba Sur Bharati Prakashan, Varanasi. Sushruta Samhita by Sushruta, published by Chaukamba Orientalia, Varanasi, 6th edition. Ashtanga Samgraha by Vriddha Vagbada, published by the Central Council for Research in Ayurveda and Siddha, New Delhi. Ashtanga Hridaya by Vagbada, published by the Krishnadas Academy, Varanasi. Answer the following questions. Name and explain the 8 branches of Ayurveda. Explain the important sites of the 3 doshas. Which are the different therapeutic procedures of Panchakarma? What is meant by Purva Karma? Explain its importance. What are the different types of Sneha? Explain their sources. Explain the following: Acha Snehapana, Vicharana Snehapana, and Sadhya Sneha. Explain Pathya and Apathya of Abhyantara Snehapana. Explain the procedure of Abhyantara Snehapana. Explain the symptoms of the following: Samyak Snehana, Asamyak Snehana, and Ati Snehana.
Hello and welcome to the session on Information Services and Products, National Level Information Systems and Networks. The role of information systems and networks in the national level is being increasingly recognized by the scientific and technological information users, policy makers, administrators, scholars, scientists, decision makers, etc. This module discusses some national level information systems and networks. National level information systems. National Institute of Science, Communication and Information Resources, NISCAR. National Institute of Science, Communication and Information Resources, NISCAR, located at New Delhi, India, is one of the leading information science institutes in India under CSIR, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. NISCAR came into existence on 30th September 2002 with the merger of National Institute of Science Communication, NISCOM, formerly known as the Publication and Information Directorate, PDI, and Indian National Scientific Documentation Center, INSDOC. Both NISCOM and INSDOC, the two premier institutes of Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, were devoted to dissemination and documentation of S&T information respectively. With the formation of NISCAR, the multi-faceted activities of INSDOC and NISCOM have been merged, making the newly emerged institution capable of providing best platform for developing human resources using available modern ICT infrastructure in an effective manner. Objectives of NISCAR. The main aim of NISCAR is the dissemination of scientific and technical information through various information products and services provided by the institution. The objectives of NISCAR are as follows: to provide formal linkage of communication among the scientific community in the form of research journals in different areas of science and technology, to disseminate science and technology information to general public, particularly to school students, to inculcate interest in science among them, to collect and disseminate information on plant and mineral wealth and industrial infrastructure of the country, to harness information technology applications in information management with particular reference to science, to act as a facilitator in furthering the economic, social, industrial, scientific, commercial development by providing access to relevant and accurate information, to develop human resources in science communication, library, documentation and information sciences and S&T information management systems and services, to collaborate with international institutions and organizations having objects and goals similar to those of NISCAR. Any other activity in consonance with mission statement of NISCAR. Activities and services of NISCAR. The core activity of NISCAR is to collect or store, publish and disseminate S&T information through a mix of traditional and modern means which benefits different segments of society. To meet the above objectives, the following services and activities are organized: CSIR News and CSIR Samachar. NISCAR publishes CSIR News English fortnightly and CSIR Samachar Hindi monthly. These publications serve as an effective link between various CSIR laboratories. It provides information on various R&D organizations, university departments and industry. National Prior Art Search Services Facility, NPASF. Under this facility, the following services are provided: Prior Art Search Services, Patent Drafting Services, Patent Informatics Services. Editing. NISCAR provides editorial services for conference proceedings, scholarly books, popular science books, etc. for other organizations on man-hour basis. Information services. NISCAR offers various information services. Some of these have been listed below. Translation services. NISCAR provides translation of S&T documents from 20 foreign languages into English. NISCAR provides a reverse translation, English into foreign language also. Bibliometric services. Under this facility, the following services are provided: citation analysis, impact factor of journals, multi-faceted bibliometric analysis, bibliometric analysis. NISCAR is the National Center for ISSN, International Center for Assigning ISSN number to serials published in India. Content Abstract and Photocopy Service, CAPS. Literature Search Service. Medicinal and Aromatic Plant Service based on the Wealth of India and MAPA database. Human Resources Development, HRD. NISCAR's HRD programs can be categorized as follows: short-term training programs, attachment training program, one-side training programs. Book exhibition. To reach the buyer directly, NISCAR participates in most of the books exhibition organized in the country at state, national and international levels. Consultancy programs. NISCAR offers consultancy services in several areas: modernization, automation and reorganizations of libraries and information centers. Design and development of specialized databases for various organizations. Editing, designing, production and printing. CD-ROM publication jobs. Raw material herbarium and museum. It provides consultancy services on identification of plants and crude drugs of plant origin. The herbarium houses over 8,000 specimens of economic and medicinal plants of India, and the museum comprises over 3,000 samples of crude drugs, animal and mineral specimens. NISCAR has published a handbook on herbaria in India and neighboring countries. Recently, NISCAR has published a book entitled Field Manual on Herbarium Techniques. The book highlights the current approaches for the use of state-of-art technology for collection of plants, specimens from various groups of plants, their preservation, identification, nomenclature, methods of documentation of information of plants and management of herbaria and other relevant areas associated with herbarium techniques and research. Popular science magazines. NISCAR publishes popular science magazines in 3 languages. It covers latest scientific developments for all kind of users. Magazines are Science Reporter, English Monthly, Vigyan Pragati, Hindi Monthly, and Science Ki Duniya, Urdu Quarterly. Popular science books. NISCAR publishes a large number of popular science books in several areas, include fundamental science, contemporary area of science, and science entertainment. NISCAR has brought out as many as 60 popular science books in English under different series, and 28 books have been brought out in Hindi also. Wealth of India, WOI. WOI is an encyclopedia of Indian natural raw materials. A continuous activity of NISCAR is to publish the supplements of WOI. Bharat Ki Sampada, the Hindi version of Wealth of India, is also available. Electronic publishing. NISCAR publishes a digital version of its major publications such as Indian Science Abstracts, Medicinal and Aromatic Plants Abstracts, The Wealth of India and Raw Materials series. Journals published by NISCAR. NISCAR publishes 17 primary journals and 2 secondary scientific or research journals. These are Indian Journal of Biochemistry and Biophysics bi-monthly, Indian Journal of Biotechnology quarterly, Indian Journal of Geomarine Science bi-monthly, Indian Journal of Chemistry monthly, Indian Journal of Chemistry B monthly, Indian Journal of Chemical Technology bi-monthly, Indian Journal of Experimental Biology monthly, Indian Journal of Radio and Space Physics bi-monthly, Journal of Intellectual Property Rights bi-monthly, Journal of Scientific and Industrial Research monthly, Indian Journal of Engineering and Material Science bi-monthly, Indian Journal of Pure and Applied Physics monthly, Annals of Library and Information Studies quarterly, Indian Journal of Fiber and Textile Research quarterly, Indian Journal of Natural Products and Resources bi-monthly, formerly it is known as National Products Radiance, Indian Journal of Traditional Knowledge quarterly, Bharatiya Vaigyanik Evam Audyogik Anusadan Patrika Hindi half yearly. NISCAR publishes 2 abstracting journals. These are Medical and Aromatic Plants Abstracts MAPA bi-monthly, Indian Science Abstract ISA fortnightly. Information products of NISCAR. The products of NISCAR include National Union Catalogue of Scientific Serials in India NUCSSI. It provides information about scientific serials, around 35,000 titles of serials including 18,000 current titles. It has been produced in print and machine readable forms. Presently, the online version of NUCSSR is available. Indian patents on CD-ROM. It is a bibliographic database that provides information on more than 52,600 patents granted in India from the year 1975 to 2002. Indian Science Abstracts on CD-ROM. It is a cumulative database of nearly 2 lakhs Indian science abstracts covering the period from January 1990 to December 1999. Compendium of Indian medicinal plants. It gives information on isolation of compounds from plants and describes their biological activities. National Science Library (NSL). NSL was set up in 1964. It aims to acquire R&D reference sources, Indian S&T publications, foreign communication technology, computer science, conference proceedings, technical reports, library and information science and other sources relevant to S&T community of the country. The NSL has over 2,40,000 printed collection of S&T documents, which includes monographs, bound volumes of journals, standards, patents, reports, theses or dissertations, online databases and CD-ROM databases, etc. NSL has about 1,20,000 bound volumes of journals. Currently, NSL subscribes about 1,250 Indian periodicals and 300 foreign periodicals. NSL is enriching with 4,256 international e-journals published by 16 publishers. Directory of STM Library and Directory of STM Journal are main products of NSL and e-journal consortium. Institutional repositories and Directory of STM Library are main projects of NSL. Membership of NSL is open to individuals, institutions, and it offers various services that include reader services, document copy supply services, interlibrary loan services, copying service, technical query service, walk-in user facility, online public access catalog, photocopying service, literature search, reference service, content abstract and photocopy service CAPS, bibliometric service and ISSN. International relations. NISCAR maintains relation with number of countries such as Great Britain, Hungary, Egypt, Mexico, Poland, USA, etc. It also cooperates with several national and international organizations for exchange of information. NISCAR is serving while the cause of scientific information in the country. The role of NISCAR in the conglomerate of information system and service is unique. To conclude, NISCAR will play a major role in networked information society that assure its prime importance in the future information market of the country. National Social Science Documentation Center (NASDOC). National Social Science Documentation Center (NASDOC) New Delhi was set up in 1969 by the Indian Council of Social Science Research ICSSR with the object of providing information support to social science research activities in India. Formerly, its name was SSDC, Social Science Documentation Center. This name was changed to NASDOC in 1985. It is considered as one of the largest repositories of bibliographical databases in the area of social sciences. The objectives of NASDOC are to provide library and information support service to the researcher in the field of social sciences, to provide support to those working in the academic institutions, autonomous research organizations, policy making and planning and research units of government departments, business and industry, to disseminate information about developments in social science research, to inform scholars about the current and retrospective materials available for the research, to provide guidance to libraries of ICSSR regional centers and ICSSR maintained research institutions, to assist research institutions in creating documentation and bibliographic services, to maintain linkage with other documentation and information centers, to bridge the gap between professionals and information technology. Activities of NASDOC: building up a collection of reference materials of research value and collecting unpublished doctoral theses approved by Indian universities and foreign theses on India, research reports of the projects undertaken by ICSSR and other social science research institutions assisted by ICSSR funded seminars and conferences. Providing bibliographic information about Indian publications in social science discipline to international documentation agencies. Bibliographic control over social science materials. Providing document delivery service to scholars from outside Delhi. Awarding study grants to scholars for working at libraries of their interest in India. Providing consultancy to social science institutions in setting up documentation and information centers. Conducting professional training programs under Continuing Education Program, Khana 1996. Research Survey Program. ICSSR conducted this program in 5 disciplines, was economics, geography, political science, psychology, education sociology and social anthropology. All the survey have been published by Council. Services of NASDOC. Bibliography on request. Bibliography on demand is a widely known support service provided by the NASDOC to social science research community. Normally, the request for this paid service are received from scholars living in cities and small towns where library and documentation services are severely limited. NASDOC Library Services. NASDOC Library provides the following services: literature search, consultation facility, reference service, referral service, document delivery service. Reprographic services. Photocopies are provided to the scholars from NASDOC collection and also from its own network. Translation services. Through arrangements with other institutions and translators, NASDOC also provides translation facility to the scholars. MOU between NASDOC and Vidyanidhi. The objective of this MOU is to contribute to the quality research capacities and productivity in social sciences in Indian universities. Documentation Center on Asian Studies, DOCAS. ICSSR set up a DOCAS with financial assistance from Government of Japan. The aim of this center was to foster better relations among the Asian countries and also to ensure progress and welfare of the people of the religion through the dissemination of information as far and wide as possible. Inter-Library Resource Center, ILRC. ILRC was set up in 1975. It is a depository library program in which all important libraries in Delhi participate. It is a rich resource center for back volumes of periodicals, government documents, etc. Documentation programs. The documentation program of NASDOC can be broadly categorized into 2. The program undertaken directly and program assisted by ICSSR. Direct program. Union list of social science periodicals. It is currently available in libraries of Andhra Pradesh, Bombay, Delhi and Karnataka and were brought out in 4 volumes, 1971 to 1972. The work for bringing out lists from other states and cities are going on. Union list of social science serials, 1970-76. NASDOC published a union list of serials. It helps to locate needed serials if available in any of the participating libraries. Union Catalogue of Newspaper in Delhi Libraries. NASDOC published a separate list of newspaper published in Delhi. Directory of Social Science Research Institutions and Organizations in India. It covers address of over thousands of social science research institutions and organizations in India. Mahatma Gandhi Bibliography. The first volume, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, a bibliography, published in 1974. It contains list of monographs in English. The remaining volumes are at various stages of compilation. Retrospective Cumulative Index of Indian Social Science Periodicals. NASDOC has started to prepare Cumulative Index of Social Science Journals to attain bibliographic control over periodical literature. Area Studies Bibliographies. This project aims at compiling bibliographies of social science literature exclusively related to the area concerned. Assisted projects. This program is related to aid documentation works, publication of good reference works, etc. in documentation center and libraries. Language bibliographies. This project aims to cover research materials in social sciences in Indian regional languages. Publications or database of NASDOC. Journals of Abstracts and Reviews biannually. ICSSR publishes journals of abstracts and reviews in 5 disciplines such as economics, geography, political science, psychology, sociology and social anthropology. Documentation in Public Administration quarterly. Vikalpa quarterly. Occasional monograph series. ICSSR newsletter quarterly. Database of research projects reports. Database of PhD dissertations. Directory of Social Science Libraries and Information Centers in India. Directory of Social Science Research and Training Institutions in India. Directory of Asian Social Science Research and Training Institutes or Organizations in India. Union Catalogue of Social Science Periodicals in India. Union Catalogue of CD-ROM database in Social Science Libraries in India. Bibliography on India in 2000 AD. Conclusion. NASDOC cooperate with many national and international organizations. It holds membership of most of the professional organizations. Therefore, NASDOC has a prominent role in providing information and documentation services in the field of social science. Apart from the above activities, NASDOC developed a linkages through the networks like DELNET, Developing Library Network. NASDOC also conduct information services using modern technologies. Defense Scientific Information and Documentation Center, DESIDOC. DESIDOC was set up in 1958 as Scientific Information Bureau, SIB. It was a division of the Defense Science Laboratory, DSL, which is presently called Defense Science Center. The Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO Library, established in 1948, became a division of SIB in 1959. In 1967, SIB was reorganized and renamed Defense Scientific Information and Documentation Center, DESIDOC. It functions as a central agency in DRDO to collect scientific and technical information from various user groups in the defense establishments. It has also a coordination role in the information setup of DRDO. The objectives of DESIDOC are to function as a central information center for providing scientific information, documentation, library, reprographic, translation services to DRDO headquarters and laboratories establishments and to coordinate their scientific information program. To develop an information system for defense science and technology. To provide training and user education programs in the field of scientific information. To provide consultancy and referral services. To publish scientific and technical journals, books and monographs of DRDO. Services of DESIDOC. The various services of DESIDOC are library services. DESIDOC maintains Defense Science Library DSL, a well-equipped library housing 53,000 books, 34,000 technical reports, 1,78,000 standards, 20,000 reprints and 8,000 micro documents. A good collection of British, American, German and Russian patents and a CD-ROM databases, etc. It gives access to online public access catalog, CD-ROM search, document supply service and resource sharing service. Information processing and dissemination. DRDO provides current awareness services and selective dissemination of information to DRDO scientists. This includes newspaper clippings services, IEE or IEEE contents, current contents in military science and technology. Training. It provides training in information collection, processing and dissemination, library automation, database development, online searching, internet use and many areas connected with modern technology. Technical services. It provides various technical services. It includes reprography services, translation services, communication services and printing services. Activities of DAISY-Doc. Internet and email access. DAISY-Doc provides email and internet access to the DRDO laboratories in the country through ERNet and NICNet. DAISY-Doc has established an internet lab to cater to the needs of the internet users. DAISY-Doc provides online searching facility of several international databases through Dialog. Multimedia Laboratory. It provides multimedia authoring, designing and presentation facilities to the top management and the scientific advisor to the Defense Minister. Expertise has been established in image processing, CD writing, audio-video designing, desktop CD publishing and multimedia CD-ROM production. This service meant for DRDO top management technical directorates, DRDO laboratories and other defense units. Printing facility. A full-fledged high-quality printing facility has been established for in-house production of DRDO publications. Reprographic facility. This facility meant for DRDO top management and scientists in their technical presentations. The facility is equipped with a computer-based multicolor slide making system and a digital color copier, high-quality color printers and video recorders, and provides high-quality presentation materials. Information packages. Information is communicated to the concerned users in the form of information packages in various forms. Bibliographies, SDI bulletin, current abstraction on electronics, patent information alert, defense report abstracts, DAISY-Doc list, state of the art report. Computerized information systems. DAISY-Doc developed software packages for the use of libraries like DELMS and Sanjay. Publications of DAISY-Doc. Defense Science Journal bi-monthly, Technology Focus bi-monthly, DRDO Newsletter monthly, DRDO Samachar monthly, published in Hindi. DAISY-Doc Bulletin of Information Technology, DBIT bi-monthly, Popular Science and Technology, R&D Digest bi-monthly, DRDO Science Spectrum Monographs, Pradyogiki Vishay quarterly. Conclusion. DAISY-Doc is an important national documentation center oriented towards the service to R&D works. It primarily aims at providing information to the defense scientists. The services of DAISY-Doc are beneficial to scientists and research workers engaged in defense-oriented research. Now, you can try to answer the questions given here. First, which are the areas of activities of DAISY-Doc? What are the direct programs of NAS-Doc? What are the information products of NISCARE? What are the information packages of DAISY-Doc? What are the publications of NAS-Doc? Hope that you can go through the reference book given here. Information Systems, written by R.K. Bhatt in 2009, published by Pragati Publications, New Delhi. Second one, Handbook of Library Information Systems and Services, a study of networks in India, UK and USA, written by J.K. Khanna in 1966, published by Beacon Books, New Delhi. Third, Library and Society, written by Yashoda Rani and Anil K. Deeman, written in 2005 and published by SS Publications, New Delhi. Thank you for watching the program. We can meet again with another topic. Have a nice day.
Welcome to Interface. Today we have an mobile app developer and iOS developer from UK. He is the founder of TouchAware Limited, London, UK. Welcome, Samson Lopez.
Thank you, Rajesh.
In the global scenario, this explosion of explosive use of smartphones and other gadgets are happening. So, could you please explain what is the major trends in mobile apps development in global scenario?
If you go back in time, the explosion happened when soon after the iPhone was launched, the iOS SDK was launched a year later. So that's when a lot of developers started developing a lot of applications. So since then, apps have been developed on the iOS platform and the Android platform on a lot of categories. So the App Store is now flooded with millions of applications. So there are good quality applications as well. And the answer to your second part of the question, the current trends. So the big phase transition now is on the change to cloud. So there's a lot of movement from standalone applications to cloud-based applications. So that is one of the current trends we have.
So the technology has a lot of advancements in terms of mobile apps development. And how can we avoid major pitfalls in app development?
Mobile application development from a software engineering standpoint is not very different from any other application development, the desktop application development or development of services. So I think the question here is whether the standard engineering practices or software engineering practices are followed. So if you go through a rigorous testing development cycle, you tend to produce quality applications. Now the issue with mobile application development is a lot of inexperienced developers are developing applications which lead to insecure applications, low quality applications. So what needs to be done is to bring more processes more review processes, educate the developers to produce more quality applications to reduce issues. So all the security issues for standard applications also exist for mobile application as well. So it's how well you do it and what are the processes to make it secure, which is important in my point of view.
So in the app development domain, so what you do, what you passionate about. So that is the scenario. So what are the special skills and roles required in this field?
To develop an app, you need to have the domain knowledge. So, say for instance, my own application I design. Over the years I've gathered a lot of knowledge on 2D vector drawing apps, and that really helped me to when I actually developed the app. So I feel that the domain knowledge is very critical in developing applications. Now there are a lot of other factors like technical skill, your knowledge of the current development platforms, whether it is iOS or whether it is Android. So you need to learn and relearn and adapt to all the new current cutting edge technology, which is like ever changing.
There is a saying like a good artist borrow and a great artist steal. So this is applicable for all creative endeavors. So in the app development also it is practical. What is your comment on this?
I'm not very sure if I read it right whether I agree about borrowing and stealing, because I feel that if you want to bring out a successful application, it has to be something original, something which is not already there. So I don't really feel that borrowing or stealing is the right approach there. So you need to bring in something original. So I do understand, if I may quote an analogy with say music. You initially tend to play songs which are already there. So that's for you to actually gain the skill, but it's not going to take you anywhere. So you will have to, over time you will have to work on original ideas and original thinking. So that's my take on it.
So in this app development domain, so what is the importance of user experience for designers and the collaboration between the designers and the developers? What is your view on that?
Okay, I am basically a iOS and Mac developer, so I'm more related to Apple development methodologies. So the philosophy of Apple is very design oriented. So design is something primary. There's a lot of emphasis on design. So in software engineering in general, design is everywhere. So the old tried and tested method of failure, the waterfall model, is not applicable anymore in today's world.
Yes.
So it is all agile, and design is in all phases. So I even believe that there's a significant amount of design in even coding. So even when you code, you actually do a lot of design. So every developer, in a sense, especially for the app development segment, needs to be some sort of a designer as well, to actually keep pace with the app development.
So how will you meet the user experience there? So what is the importance of that?
So the idea is to develop simple user interface which the users can get the task done. So for that, so user experience, UX is again very important. So that's a skill which every developer need to possess.
So you can choose from many app development platforms for your application, and they are not none of them are immune to security. So what are the major security aspects you have to consider while you go for an app development?
Well, there are two kinds of security areas in my view. So one is the platform level security, which the platform actually provides for you, say whether it is iOS or whether it is Android. Things like simple things like even locking the screen of a smartphone, the kind of encryption, all these kinds of security features are provided by the platform. So how good is that? How good is the Android platform security? How good is iOS? The second part is security related to the app itself. That's where the developer's knowledge and skill about security comes into play. So the developer needs to be aware of, say, for instance, he should not send clear text password to a service. So that's a security issue there. So it is very developer dependent and also dependent on the engineering, software engineering practices related to security when the app is developed.
In Indian scenario also, the mobile apps goes very drastically. The applications are coming up, and so what is the major apps development scenario happening in Indian market in terms of Indian language mobile apps?
So I am primarily based in the UK, and my view as of now is more on the European market, because I am currently doing translation of my app in various European languages. But my feeling is that it's pretty much the same for any language in any region. So you have different elements. You can it's basically internationalization of an app. So it involves in language related translation. It involves in the way you treat currency. So in certain countries like Spain, you have a comma instead of a decimal point. So to translate an app in an Indian language, I think it's pretty much easy, where it's just strings involved. But when you consider things like voice input,
Okay.
like in iOS applications you have Siri, and you have for Google, for Android applications you have different method of voice input. That's where the challenge lies for the Indian scenario. So you need voice recognition systems for Indian languages. So probably that's one area where you have more input on that or knowledge about that. So it's a research and development area as of now, I guess, till we actually have more ways to process Indian languages.
Yeah, in India, the internet and mobile basis grows, and we have 22 official languages here.
Okay.
So I think this is a upcoming challenge we have to take up. So my next question is based on the cross-platform tools that is growing up nowadays. So what are the challenges involved in taking up this cross-platform tools, because we have iPhones, we have BlackBerry, we have Androids, and we have Windows mobiles and Symbians, etc. So what is your view on that?
If you look at the market share of all these platforms which you have mentioned, Android, iOS, BlackBerry and Symbian, the bulk of it is Android and iOS. So you do have a small portion of Windows mobile development and small portion of BlackBerry. So for an app developer who want to target all these spaces, irrespective of the market share, he might have to adopt for a platform like, PhoneGap or Xamarin or something to develop. So there are a couple of platforms available, but my take on it is a large section of developers will most likely focus on the large market share bits. So it actually boils down to Android and iOS. So to use a cross-platform development framework or tool just for two platforms may or may not make sense. that depends upon the kind of application you are developing. So if your application is more user interface oriented and you are actually using backend services, it might be worthwhile to use Xamarin or PhoneGap or any other cross-platform framework or tool. But if you want to do more processing based or a bit more hardcore application which is tied to the framework, I would actually go for different development on each platform to actually leverage the capabilities of the platform rather than sacrifice on the capabilities by combining everything. But it's a very it's very app dependent and the app domain dependent on the kind of app you are developing.
So how can my app make money, or in other ways how will you put your app in a app store? So what is the process involved?
So once you develop an app, you generally submit it for a particular platform. Say for iOS, you submit it for review with Apple. The same must be applicable for Android. But as far as I know, the review process of Apple is on the stronger side. You generally tend to wait for a week for Apple to turn out to actually get your app on reviewed. So they have I don't know 30 or 40 list checkpoint to check various issues which can be filtered, which is sort of domain independent. Now the other part, to answer the other part of the question, how can you make money? So from what I know, about 90% of registered developers, or even 95%, don't really make any money out of apps, out of the App Store. So it's that top 5% developers who actually make money out of the App Store. So it's the question of getting there at the top 5%. So that means that your app has to be top in the category. So how can it be top in the category? It has to be high quality. It has to have certain features which are not available elsewhere. So it's a matter of focus on getting the app refined and polished to get it to that high level, so that it's top of the category to make money. So gone are the days when you can actually write a very simple app and dump it on the App Store and make money. So yeah, it's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of passion, a lot of effort today.
If your customer base is very small and they will be asking email request and more feature request, so how will you handle that?
Okay, I am actually thinking of an analogy where Sir Henry Ford, he invented the automobile, the car. So if a person, those days it was horse carriages. So if you went and asked a person who's driving a horse carriage on what do you want, he'll just say a faster horse. I just want a faster horse. So he doesn't know, or he is not in a position to envision what an automobile is. So that's something which only Sir Henry Ford could do at that point in time. So my point of view is that you cannot ask the customer to decide on the features of your app, or the vision of your app, or what your app needs to be at a later point in time. That is something, that is why you are the developer, right? You can, certainly you can take customer feedback to know the issues of the current application, what they think, but the vision has to come from you. So you do need to support your customers, but to grow your app, that's something which you have to think yourself.
So what are the major legal issues involved in app development in terms of IPR and patenting the apps, etc.?
I would say it is very similar to any kind of software development, software you develop. So patents and intellectual property rights have been there even before this app revolution, app explosion. So, but on software patents are again very delicate, it's a very gray area there on, what you can patent, what you cannot, and how you can enforce patents. So for small time developers, the overhead of patenting is actually considerable. So in my view, you just need to be aware of not trying to copy something which is already there, in order to avoid difficulties later. So to actually do exhaustive search, a patent search for an idea, you generally have to pay a lot. It might make sense if your company is large. If it's a small company, the chances are that if your app idea or whatever feature you're trying to do, if it's not intentional, it might just be okay. So that doesn't mean that you can actually copy other people's work, which you will end up in trouble later. So that's my point of view on it.
Samson Lopez, so actually you are an entrepreneur, you founder of a startup company and an app developer. So what are the challenges involved in succeeding as an independent app developer in the current scenario?
It's a very open-ended question, but I'll try to give you my best answer to it. I mean, it's a huge market now. I mean, it's like for Apple alone, in the past 5 to 6 years, the entire Apple developer community would have sold $25 billion of worth of apps, and that's growing. So it's a huge market, and I don't think that it's just saturated yet. There is a lot to do. There's a lot to develop, but it is not as easy as I said before to actually make an app and upload it on the App Store and make money out of it. So now it's already there's quite a lot of apps there. So there are a lot of factors which come to play, like your domain knowledge on the app you're developing, your platform knowledge, the focus of focus and attention and detail you put into your app development. So these characteristics or these points are really they really decide on whether your app is going to be on the top 5% to actually generate some revenue. So it boils down to you need to really write a quality app which is actually required by the current user base, and for you to generate money based on that.
So thank you very much for your valuable time and for being with us for this interface program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dalajesh. My pleasure it was. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the session on educational system in medieval India. Educational system in general. The term medieval comes from the Latin meaning middle age and is introduced into English by 19th century. The period of introduction, or rather separation as medieval and modern, witnesses a heightened expression in art, history and literature despite of their continuity with the Middle Ages. Regarding the commencement of medieval period, there are differences of opinion. Some scholars believe that the period starts from 5th century AD and ends up by 15th century AD. Some others argue that medieval period is from 8th century AD to 18th century. The general consensus among scholars is that the period begins with the rise of the Roman Empire and ends with the period of Renaissance or the age of discovery. The educational system in the medieval period was flourished with the patronage of kings, landlords, local rulers and communities. There were formal and informal institutions to teach students. Schools known as pathashalas, maktabs, were run by not only families or religious institutions but also by individuals known as guru or mullahs. Pathashalas belong to Hindu educational system and maktabs belong to Muslim educational system. The individual teachers were paid by cash and kinds such as food, cloth and oil. Apart from learning, students were engaged in other course of helping their teacher and his family. These duties extended up to doing all kinds of services to the teacher's family, carrying his luggage during travel, carrying the palanquin in which the teacher travels, etc. The punishments given by the teachers were severe and students were expected to follow strict discipline with utmost obedience. Functioning of the schools was monitored by the patrons of the institutions concerned. The children of the kings, local rulers and rich people were taught separately by individual tutors engaged at their home. Students were taught arithmetic, grammar, logic, astrology, art, polity, little bit of astronomy and a little bit of Vaidyam, traditional medical practice, along with stories that bears ethical advices. Generally, the educational system of medieval India was termed as religious education, even though other subjects were also included in the teaching package. Hindus and Muslims have separate educational institutions, but admitting Hindu students in Muslim institutions and vice versa were not rare. After the completion of this education, a student is equipped to take the day-to-day responsibility in her life. A student can also go for higher studies in any of the subjects she is interested in, the specialized schools in Takshila, Nalanda, etc. From there, one can be a good grammarian or logician or physician or astrologer. There were also individual teachers specialized in each of the subjects to provide their service to the needy students. But selection of students were also determined by the caste hierarchy existed in the society at that time. Lower caste students were not permitted to attend the upper caste educational spaces. Women's presence was less in most of the specialized subjects meant for higher studies. Their mobility in terms of leaving their home for higher studies was generally restricted. In spite of this drawback, the merit of these educational systems were their adaptability to local environment and economic conditions. Teaching in the elementary stage was through mnemonic devices such as reiteration, memorization, and also through writing alphabets on sand using the forefinger of a student. Using a body part, forefinger, directly for writing on the sand is meant to ingrain the alphabets in the mind of the student and increasing her memorization process. At a later stage of education, palm leaves were used for preserving the written knowledge. Pointed metal nails were used as stylus for writing on palm leaves. Palm leaf manuscripts. A series of processes are required to make palm leaf manuscripts, which were equivalent to modern books. Palm leaves, after being cut in the required size, generally rectangular in shape, were boiled in water to the required temperature in order to make them soft. The softened leaves, after drying, were pressed, polished, and sized. Then holes were made on either sides of the leaf with a red hot wire. A cord was passed through the holes to hold the leaves together. 2 wooden planks were placed above and below the leaves to protect it as a book-like thing for future usage. These books in the medieval period were known as manuscripts or grantham. When the written words become dusty and unclear in the course of time, the alphabets were wiped with lemongrass oil in order to make them clear. Writing on palm leaf needs skill and accuracy. Common man cannot easily write on palm leaf. People who are experts in writing were known as scribes. In other words, scribes were the people who are specialized in writing, and not all people were writers, though they learn and memorize things and many kinds of knowledge. There are different methods of writing. In South India, the most common method to write on palm leaf is incision with a pointed metal stylus. After incision, to make the letters visible, lampblack or coal powder mixed with oil would be applied on the leaves. Alternatively, fresh green leaves of some particular trees would also be rubbed on the palm leaves to render the writing visible. In the second method, writing would be done with specially prepared ink. A quill or specially prepared brush would be used as a pen to write. Different scripts were used in different regions for teaching and writing. Some of the prominent scripts used for learning are Pali, Brahmi, Urdu, Persian, Arabic, Sanskrit, and Tamil. Hindu system of education. The institutionalization of education in India had happened with a Jainist and Buddhist influence. In the 5th and 6th century AD itself, there were Jainist and Buddhist system of education. The Buddhist monks were wandering people, and they had provided itinerant teaching for lay people and systematic learning for Buddhist monks through monasteries or viharas. For the latter people, disciplines of the monastic order or the Sangha, discourses of the doctrine, and advanced philosophical ideas were taught. For the layman, teaching was provided through stories implicit with moral and ethical ideas. For both the group, teaching was given in spiritual exercises and philosophical ideas. There were also individual gurus who taught students at their residences. The Buddhist, Jainist, Brahmanic educational systems, and that meant for different castes, are generally termed as the Hindu system of education. There were different schools in general in the Hindu system of education. They were the Gurukula schools or tolls, the temple schools, the Agrahara village schools. The Gurukula upholds private teacher system, where The teacher had a direct personal relationship with each student. The place was generally in a guru's house. The character, ideals, and ethics of the people were developed or shaped by the guru through his day-to-day presence, way of living, and influence. Sometimes the classes were also conducted under a tree. Talls were run in thatched mud huts and were more formal kind of institution with 20-25 disciples or students. They were financially supported by the regional or local landlords. Subjects of instruction include grammar, literature or poetry, philosophy, astronomy or Jyotisha, arithmetic, etc. The temple schools were inspired from the Buddhist monasteries and universities. There had been a large number of temples through which huge financial transactions had taken place. They had supported education of the local people by providing space, teacher and philosophical inputs. The temple schools had flourished in the 10th century AD. For instance, the Vedic college at Emmrc in South Arcot district was established in the 11th century AD. This college had offered free boarding, lodging and tuition to around 350 students. The institution had provided salary for 16 teachers and some allowance for each student. In the 13th century AD, the Thiruvariyur temple in the Chengalpet district was a prominent center for linguistic studies and grammar learning. In Agrahara village schools, the teachers were scholarly Brahmins specialized in different branches of knowledge. These schools were mainly meant for upper caste students and the entry of lower caste was restricted to these places. In Hindu system, the elementary education was imparted through pathashalas, which were existed in all villages and in towns. The patrons were the rulers, chieftains, landlords, village communities, scholars and rich people. Pathashalas were held in the veranda of the house of Guru. It was also held under a big tree. Temple premises were also used to teach students. No particular institutionalized buildings were used to run pathashalas. They were conducted as per the availability of building in each localities and had an adaptable nature. No specific fee was charged from students, but the parents who can afford something give money, gifts, rice, oil, etc. to the teachers. Students were required to render their personal service to the teachers in a day-to-day basis or whenever called for by the teacher. There were 4 stages of education at the elementary stage. 1. Writing letters of the alphabet on sand. 2. Teacher wrote on palm leaves and the students traced over them with charcoal ink. 3. Memorizing numbers and multiplication tables in the form of verses. 4. Writing and pronouncing compound sentences, equations, etc. Arithmetic was a compulsory subject since it is essential for the day-to-day transactions in life. Literature was included, but not as literature as we knew it now, but as epics and moral stories. Verse was a fundamental form used in teaching and learning. This is also a strategical move to help students in remembering complex formulas, morals, combinations of sentences, grammatical rules, medicinal properties, etc. This basic form also helps the student in recalling the learned knowledge easily at a later stage in their life. The main objectives of Hindu education are preparing the students for the existing world, equipping the students for a vocation, preparing individuals for administrative services, imparting moral and ethical ideas in life, providing basic knowledge to enable the student for higher studies. Vedic learning is another form of education in which the student has an opportunity to study the three Vedas, Rig, Yajur and Samavedas, and at a later stage the Vedangas or the end of Vedas. This is termed as pure religious education. Muslim system of education. With the advent of Mohammedan rulers in India, their influence had reflected in the field of education. The institutions for education of Muslim community in the medieval India were divided into mosques, khanqahs or Sufi centers, dargahs, maktabs and madrasas, along with private teachings of individuals. Private teachers imparted elementary education, whereas mosques or other religious places instructed further knowledge with religious education. Beginners learn alphabets, pronunciation, punctuation, reading and writing. Maktabs and madrasas are meant for secondary and higher level of education. Both the institutions may either attached with mosque or run independently with the help of local patrons or rulers. The teachers, known as Maulavis, are in charge of the maktabs. The objective of this education was to train ulamas or scholars and make them capable to do the duties of civil service, administration and law. The first madrasa was established by Sultan Iltutmish in Delhi. It is named as Madrasa-e-Muizzi after the name of Muizzuddin Muhammad Ghori. In Muhammad bin Tughlaq's period, there were thousands of madrasas only in Delhi. Madrasas were set up in big towns and small villages. The eminent scholars teach in the modern centers located near the Sultanate or major cities. In the medieval period, education was also imparted through Sufi centers or khanqahs. This type of education was promoted mainly during the Khilji dynasty period. During this period, a tremendous progress was seen in the learning of theology, lexicography and exegetic writing. Learning in Greco-Arab medicine also flourished during the period of Khiljis. Learned men from Arabia, Persia and Central Asia were invited to teach the students of all the above mentioned educational institutions. Even though the education in the medieval period was known as religious education, subjects other than religion were also taught there. Generally, the main subjects taught in madrasas were tafsir, hadith, fiqh. Besides these religious subjects, logic, grammar, medicine, astronomy and literature were also taught in madrasas. Later, arithmetic, geometry, mensuration, attaching numbers to phenomena according to certain rules, agriculture, moral classes, polity and politics were included for teaching. Art and literature was also part of the subjects. Importance was also given for the well-defined norms of behavior, pattern of thought and the ethical development of the characters of a people. Philosophy was divided into physics and metaphysics based upon Aristotelian principle of the Greeks. The teacher was respected as the most knowledgeable person. Questioning of the teacher was not possible in any of the medieval educational system, such as Muslim education and Hindu education. The practice of living with the teacher was not as common with a Muslim as it was in the case of Brahmanic and Buddhist education. Punishments given by the teachers were severe. Truants and delinquents were caned and slapped. The madrasas and maktabs were financially supported through grant-in aid system, either by the rulers of the Mughal dynasty or by the local landlords. The grants given to the ulamas or scholars are known as Madad-e-Maash. The rulers helped in the spread of the education. They built educational institutions and universities and supported them through grants. The learned men were patronized by most of the rulers of the Mughal dynasty. Generally, they did not interfere in the management of educational institutions and in deciding the curriculum of the institutions. In Muslim educational system, writing alphabets on sand was not seen. They used palm leaves with knife or nails as stylus for this purpose. The main scripts used were in Urdu, Persian and Arabic. A new script named Arabi Malayalam had developed in Kerala by the end of the medieval period, in which the script was Arabic and the language was Malayalam. The main objectives of Muslim education are mentioned below. A. Developing love for Muslim culture and religion. B. Enabling the individual for Islamic life. C. Preparing the students for the existing world. D. Equipping the students for a vocation. E. Preparing individuals for administrative services. F. Imparting moral and ethical ideas in life. Educational institutions for higher studies. People who are intended to go for higher studies in grammar, philosophy, medicine, astronomy, etc., had a choice to go out of their region and joined in any of the higher educational institutions established in various places. The well-known educational institutions meant for higher studies were Nalanda and Takshila. The Sanskrit name for Takshila is Takshashila. They were centers meant for the study of art, culture, medicine, philosophy and politics. Both the places were famous centers of Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana means greater vehicle, and the proponents hope to become bodhisattvas or saints who have become enlightened but postponed this nirvana for the betterment of the human beings. The clear separation amongst science, medicine, astronomy could not be seen in the medieval education. Physical science was part of philosophical studies. Method of mastering in each subject includes debates and discussion based on an art of Nyaya or Tarkashastra. Medicine or medical science largely derived from the Samkhya and Nyaya Vaisheshika tradition. Surgery was part of the indigenous medical science during the medieval period, but declined gradually in the course of time. Nalanda. Originally, Nalanda was a center of Brahmanic learning. It was familiar for a significant debate that had taken place between the Buddhist logician Dinaga and the Brahmin scholar Sudurjaya. Under the patronage of Gupta emperors, the university flourished as a secular space of learning. It was stated that 7 halls and 300 rooms were provided for the holding of classes. Takshila. Buddhist influences enhanced the reputation of Takshila from a private teacher managed school to a state managed and well organized educational institution. By 7th century AD, when the traveller Huansang visited Takshila, it was in its ruins. Technical education. Technical education had flourished during the medieval period by sharing the knowledge from many other countries such as Arabia and Persia. During the Mughal period, India was famous for its thin silk production. High quality products such as painted and enameled wares, cups and basins, steel guns, knives, paper, gold and silver ornaments and cotton were produced because of the backup of a highly developed technical training. Technical education had been given through the artisan-cum-apprentice system and through manufacturing establishments called karkhanas. Technical skills were also acquired through traditional family trainings. A student learned the skills gradually by observing and participating in different levels of the making of a product, since the learning had happened in their family setup. Let me summarize the session. In this section, we have looked at the different aspects of medieval educational system in India. There were different types of educational institutions for the Muslim and Hindu communities. Education had been imparted through individual teachers and institutions such as temples, mosques and pathshalas. Maktabs and madrasas were the Muslim educational institutions, whereas temples, tolls and agraharam schools were the Hindu educational institutions. Education was meant for the betterment of an individual, for getting occupation and for improving the ethical and moral life of people. Technical education was not taught as a separate subject, but was given through apprenticeship. Students who want to be specialists in select subject had been an opportunity to go for higher studies in places such as Nalanda and Takshila. Now, you can try to answer the questions given here. What were the subjects taught in the educational system of medieval period? What do you mean by a manuscript or grantham? Describe the features of the Hindu educational system in medieval India. What were the 4 stages of learning in the elementary level of education? What were the facilities for higher education? Now, you can go through these books for reference. Education in Medieval India by Ray Krishnalal, BR Publication, New Delhi, 1934. Education in South India, Ancient and Medieval Periods by Gurumurthy S., New Era, Madras, 1979. Hope that you have enjoyed the session. We can meet again with another topic. Till then, take care.
Types of audiovisual aids. Hello and welcome to the session Types of audiovisual aids. Let's have an overview about the content. Educational technology is any sort of technology that enhances or enables learning. Today's technology offers many choices to the informed educator who wishes to capitalize on a new generation's appetite for multimedia presentations. One such technology is the use of audiovisual aids in classroom. Audiovisual aids are an important medium of communication that has been used for a long time in various situations. Audiovisual technology has an important role to play in the modern classroom. Audiovisual materials are produced, distributed and used as planned components of educational programs. These are planned educational materials that appeal to the senses of the people and quicken learning facilities for clear understanding. but they should be seen in the relationship to teaching as a whole and to the learning process as a whole until the teacher understands the relationship between audiovisual material and teaching learning process. You must remember that a mere collection of audiovisual aids cannot make teaching effective and meaningful. They are not only aids and not a substitute for the teacher. We should know what material is available and when and how it is to be used. While using audiovisual aids, we should make the best use of the things available in the classroom or things that are available in the locality. Some of the audiovisual aids that are being developed these days are much more sophisticated and makes it easy to use by any person. There are students who are quite capable of learning by themselves without the use of interactive technology. But students with special needs often require information to be presented to them in several different formats before they can adequately understand a concept or process information. The main purpose of using an audiovisual aid in classrooms are supplement and enrich teachers' own teaching, make teaching learning more concrete, to create interest among the group learners, to serve an instructional role in itself, to make teaching as an effective process. The scope of audiovisual aids is not only up to procure and make presentations, but also to use it as an effective tool for communication in a triangular process, that is motivation, stimulation and clarification. Now let's see the benefits of using audiovisual aid. They are: audiovisual aids are great motivators for the students. This helps them learn better with more zeal and enthusiasm. Audiovisual aids can facilitate the proper understanding to the students of any subject, thus encouraging healthy class interaction between teacher and the learners. Teaching aids help to increase the vocabulary of the students more effectively. It provides proper environment in sustaining the attention of the students' attention. Attention is the true factor in any process of learning and teaching. Visual aids stir an interest in students automatically. When implemented effectively, it helps in saving both time and energy of the instructors as well as the learner. Every individual has a tendency to forget things. Presentations make things more memorable and thus increase the chances that what is said will be remembered. It gives a real touch of the learning situation by making the classroom live and active. Many students get a chance to use these aids, so a real touch gives them a clear image of what is being taught. Use of audiovisual aids like radio and television help in mass education. Employment of the tools gives a great scope for children to move about, talk, laugh and comment upon. Making use of visual aids helps to accentuate and illuminate important ideas. Teaching aids provide complete example for conceptual thinking. Audiovisual aids can facilitate the proper understanding to the students, which discourage the act of cramming. Now let's see about the non-projected audiovisual aids. There are various types of audiovisual aids, that is traditional as well as modern aids of audiovisual aids. At the primary level, audiovisual aids are divided on the basis of learners' sense organs that are influenced by the aids. An aid that influences the learner's auditory sense is known as the audio aid. Audio aids include record players like MP3, radio and gramophone. An aid that influences the learner's sight is known as visual aid, and this category include blackboard or whiteboard and the chalk or pen, bulletin boards, globe, models, charts, photographs, textbooks, silent motion pictures, etc. The aids that influence both the sense of sight and hearing are classified under audiovisual aids. Keeping the media in mind, these aids are divided into two categories, print and non-print. Aids that are highly dominated by printing are called print media. Example, textbooks and supplementary readers. All materials other than textbooks and supplementary readers come under non-print media. Example, TV, charts, pictures, graphs, video films, etc. The actual classification of audiovisual aids is based on the mode in which it is used. It is divided into three: non-projected audiovisual aids, projected audiovisual aids, and electronic audiovisual aids. Non-projected audiovisual aids include books, journals, instruction manuals, handouts, programmed text, chalk and board, charts, cutouts and models. Non-projected aid can be used in lighted rooms and makes it easy for the process note taking. Some of the commonly used non-projected aids are graphic aids. This includes those with pictorial materials like charts, which are the combination of pictorial, graphic, numerical or vertical material which presents a clear summary. Charts help in highlighting the important points and provide outline of materials covered in a presentation. Charts by itself is divided into narrative charts, the cause and effect charts, evolution charts, chain charts, pull charts, striptease charts, flip charts, flow charts, pie charts, etc. Now let's see what's flashcards. Flashcards are a set of pictured paper cards of varying sizes that are flashed one by one in a logical sequence. It can be used to introduce and present topics. It can be used to apply information already gained by students to new situations. Now let's see about posters. Posters are the graphic aids with short, quick and typical messages with attention capturing paintings. It conveys the message very quickly. Graphs. Graphs are the visual teaching aids for presenting statistical data and contrasting the trends or change of certain attributes. There are different types of graphs which include the pie graph, bar graph, line graph, pictorial graph, etc. Maps. A map is a graphic aid which conveys the message by lines, symbols, words and colors. Different types of maps are political maps, population maps, picture maps, tourist maps, physical maps, relief maps, railway maps, road maps, air maps, sea route maps, weather maps, etc. Newspapers. With newspapers, the information will be available in low cost. Not only this, the contents are easy to read and understand, written in simple language. It is the best method to reach large group or audiences. Comic strips. A comic strip is a graphic depiction in a series of pictures or sketches of some character and events full of action. A comic strip presentation can stir the imagination of children. It boosts the courage of children and builds up the spirit of adventure. Comic strips hamper the development of language of children. Three-dimensional aids. It is a replica of a real thing made recognizable in height, width, depth and shapes as a whole. These models illustrate the application side of certain principles and laws. They involve the use of all the five senses and thus make learning effective. Types of three-dimensional models involve solid models, X-ray models, cutaway models, sand models and working models. Exhibits. The pieces of work by the students for an exhibition are called exhibits. Exhibitions inspire the students to learn by doing things themselves and they get a sense of involvement. Museum. A museum is a building displaying a collection of historical relics and its works of arts, works of science, literature and other artifacts of general interest. Dioramas. A diorama is a three-dimensional arrangement of related objects, models and cutouts to illustrate a central theme or concept. The objects and models are generally placed in big box or showcase with a glass covering and background printed with a shade or a scene. Dioramas provide a good opportunity to learn by giving the appearance of actual objects. Live things can also be shown using dioramas. Display boards. A chalkboard, otherwise called blackboard, is a rewritable surface on which text or drawings can be made using slate chalks. Other display boards are flannel boards or flannel graph. This is also known as felt board, frig board, slab board, visual board, etc. It is a storytelling system. Paper cutouts of characters and objects in a story can be placed on the board. It permits numerous arrangements of visual materials. Bulletin board is a soft board which will hold pins or tags. It is also called a pin board or notice board. Pegboard is a type of board which contains small holes to fix certain letters into the holes. Another display board commonly used in classroom is a magnetic box, which is a framed iron sheet carrying porcelain coating in some dark color, generally black or green. It can be used to display pictures, cutouts and light objects with disc magnets or magnetic holders. Now let's see the advantages of non-projected audiovisual aids. It's inexpensive, sophisticated, unbreakable, can be used in lighted rooms, easily used with good results. Now let's see the disadvantages of non-projected audiovisual aids. It's cumbersome, hard for large group to see, may require you to turn your back to audience, generally still materials, requires thorough preparation. Preparation is time consuming, need not necessarily give enough information, does not attract audience for a longer time. Now let's see about projected audiovisual aids. When projected aid is used, an enlarged image of the material is projected. It is projected on a screen kept at a distance from the projector. Room is either totally or partially darkened. A projected aid is supposed to be more effective than a non-projected aid since a darkened room reduces distraction and brightens images on the screen. This secures attention of the audience also. The examples of projected audiovisual aid include overhead projectors, slides, film strips, films, etc. An illuminating system is used in projected aids. The function of the illumination system is to illuminate slides or film transparency uniformly by a convergent beam of light for optimum brightness of image. There are two types of projections. Front projection. In this, the projector and the audience or the learner are on the same side of the screen. It is commonly used in dark rooms. Front projectors are ideal for large audience. Rear projection. In this, the audience or the learners and the projector are separated by translucent projection screen. It is ideally suited for exhibitions. Some of the commonly used projected audiovisual aids are the following. Overhead projectors. It is the most commonly used projected aid. It projects transparencies with brilliant screen images suitable for use in a lighted room. The teacher can write or draw diagrams on the transparency while he teaches. It permits the teacher to stand in front of the class while using the projector. Thus, it enables her to point out features appearing on the screen by pointing to the materials at the projector itself and at the same time to observe the students' reactions to her discussion. It is used to develop concepts and sequences in a subject matter. There are also opaque projectors on which you can project a variety of materials. Example, book pages, objects, coins, postcards, or any other similar flat materials that is non-transparent. Slides. Slide projectors are of another type. A slide is a small piece of transparent material on which a single pictorial image or zine or graphic image has been photographed or reproduced. The arrangement of slides in proper sequence according to the topic discussed is an important aspect of teaching with them. Film strips. Film strips are sequences of transparent still pictures with individual frames. A tape-recorded narration can be synchronized with film strip. There are two types of film strips, discussion film strips and sound film strips. Discussion film strip is continuous strip of film consisting of individual frames arranged in sequences, usually with explanatory titles. Sound slide film strip is similar to film strips, but instead of explanatory titles or spoken discussion recorded, explanation is audible, which is synchronized with the pictures. Advantages of projected audiovisual aids. They are impressive, stimulates attention and arouses interest, dramatic and colorful, more attractive due to color, motion associated with sound will be effective, easier for members of large group to see, can create desired mood or effect for what is taught or said, permits face-to-face interaction with the audience, can present information in systematic developmental sequences, require limited planning, easy to revive and update, does not require any typed material, handwritten material can be used, inexpensive when quantity reproduction is required. Now let's see the disadvantages of projected audiovisual aids. They are higher cost when there is no need for quantity reproduction, limited availability, more trouble to prepare, possibility of breakdown because they require technology, potential to be noisy, difficult to use in lighted rooms. What is meant by electronic audiovisual aids? Educational technology enables pupils to gather data that would otherwise be difficult or even impossible. The best example of this is with the use of latest technology, electronic audiovisual aids like computers and the internet. Electronic aids are mainly used for collection and analysis of data. Students can use the internet to get up to the minute information on prices. They can use a CD-ROM to watch movies of old technology speakers. Even teachers can quickly access documents from internet and CD-ROMs addressing individual students' needs. The most common electronic visual aid used in a classroom include computers. Computers were a subject to be taught a few years back, but now it has become a part of every class, part of every student. Computer can be used as a language learning tool also, similar to the use of a VCR or tape recorder. The use of a computer for listening exercises often provides not only sound but also visual input, providing students with more contextual clues. Especially in the field of pronunciation, students can employ a computer to record themselves to compare their pronunciation to a target pronunciation. Computers are complex systems with complicated operating systems. These machines require trained technicians to configure them and troubleshoot the variety of problems that occur in everyday usage. Properly trained technicians and network administrators are expensive. By using computers, students get easily motivated. This is because computers are non-judgmental. Instant feedback can be given to the students if it is a computer-based instruction. There is software which can record and check the performance of the students, on the basis of which the students can be suggested different ways to improve their performances. PowerPoint presentations with the help of computers are also of great help in improving a student's caliber. Thus, computers can provide distinct advantages over many other traditional approaches. Video and television. Video, though be motion or still, can help students understand from the picture with or without hearing any statement, dialogue, etc. Teaching with the help of video is called video aided instruction. In video aided instruction, learners' reactions are generally ascertained through a questionnaire. Nowadays, educational video cassettes are also available with video libraries in the market. Video conferencing using software such as Digiphone or Netphone and CU/CME create even more exciting educational opportunities for the students. Yet another means of electronic audiovisual aid is the television. Television is an exciting means of communication. The instructor can show the students TV programs related to a subject and make them the basis of discussion. CCTV. The CCTV means closed circuit television. It is a TV system that does not broadcast TV signals to public but transmits them over to limited monitors. The most widely known use of CCTV is in security systems and such applications as retail shops, banks, government establishments, etc. CCTV system is not only applied to the security and surveillance purposes but also to other fields like laboratory in schools or in private companies, even to production lines in factories. Internet. A number of teachers around the country have been using the internet in their classroom for many years. These pioneer internet using educators have had the opportunity to experiment with a number of techniques and create teaching methods that tap into the educational potential of the internet. Educators who are just beginning to explore the possibility of using the internet in curriculum can benefit from the experience of these teachers. Some teachers create their own web pages that contain relevant curriculum links that the students can access in the classroom and at home. Students with internet access at home can visit the school website and the teacher's link page. Research can continue at home without interruption. Sometimes mindless surfing of internet can be waste of time. There is also a chance that it increases the possibility that students will encounter a website containing inappropriate or objectionable material. Students can also communicate in real time through online conferencing. Publishing students' work is an excellent use of the internet. Students can create websites that allow them to share their knowledge with others. Teachers need to develop a basic foundation of personal computer skills before they attempt some of the more advanced internet-related activities. Audio. Using audio in the classroom can enhance listening, speaking, and communication skills in students of any age. There are different ways to use audio to improve the standard of teaching and learning in your classroom. Using audiobooks is another way to deliver a class that is learning a difficult book. You can also use audiobooks in subjects like history or social science, as there are books that have examples of historical battles and social issues read in an interesting and engaging way. Radio. Radio technology offers a unique way for K-12 teachers to integrate technology into the curriculum. English and language arts teachers will be able to use radios to reinforce listening, writing and speaking skills. With a shortwave radio, foreign language teachers can provide advanced students with an opportunity to hear the authentic language demonstrated by native speakers. Teachers with internet connection will find radios and accessible technology for bringing the world to the students. Radio can also be used to hear music. Use music as an example of how we hear sounds. Advantages of electronic audiovisual aids. They are easy to use, easy to interact with the listeners or learners, very effective in specialist roles, impactful presentation, easy to update, professional, seeks attention very easily, retains interest in the listener or the learner, no audibility or visibility problems, can be repeated again and again, can depict a lot of information, can be used as a lasting reference. Now let's see the disadvantages of electronic audiovisual aids. The poorly presented presentations will have negative effect on the learners, not compatible always, expensive, hence not affordable by everyone, can be noisy, difficult to transport, may compete with the presenter, prone to technical failures, might need special skills for its operation, requires power supply, can cause distraction. Now let's summarize. Audiovisual technology has an important role to play in the modern classroom. They should be seen in the relationship to teaching as a whole and to the learning process until the teacher understands the relationship between audiovisual material and teaching learning process. There are students who are quite capable of learning by themselves without the use of interactive technology. But students with special needs often require information to be presented to them in several different formats before they can adequately understand a concept or process information. The audiovisual aids have many benefits of being a great motivator by facilitating proper understanding among students, encouraging them in healthy interaction. Teaching aids helps to increase the vocabulary of the students more effectively. It provides proper environment in sustaining the attention of the students' attention. The chapter in detail discusses the different types of audiovisual aids. The audiovisual aids are divided into three categories: non-projected audiovisual aids, projected audiovisual aids, and electronic audiovisual aids. Non-projected audiovisual aids include books, journals, instructional manuals, graphic aids, flashcards, maps, newspapers, exhibits, museum, dioramas, handouts, programmed text, chalk and board, charts, cutouts and models. They are inexpensive, unbreakable and give result easily. At the same time, they are a still material which require thorough preparation and is hard for large group to hear and see. Projected visual aid includes overhead projectors, slides, film strips, etc. They help in grabbing the attention of the listeners. They are more attractive, colorful and impressive and require limited planning. With the help of projected aids, it is easy for members of large group to see and help in creating desired mood or effect among the audience. The main disadvantage of these aids is that they are costly and takes a lot of time. Electronic aids are mainly used for collection and analysis of data. Computers, internet, audio, video, television, CCTV and radio are a few to mention. They are easy to use, help in successful presentation and retain interest in the listener or the learner. Electronic equipments can be used for lasting references and can depict a lot of information. The disadvantage of electronic aid is that it has a chance to have negative effect on the learners. These equipments require power supply, difficult to transport and may need special skills for its preparation.
Welcome to the second episode of the Panchakarma series. Panchakarma, as we learned, has to be proceeded by Purva Karma so as to prepare patients biologically to expel accumulated impurities from the body. Purva Karma involves two methods, Snehana, that is application of oily substances, and Svedana, that is sudation. In Snehana therapy, the oily substances are administered internally as well as externally. The internal administration of oil, known as Abhyantara Snehana, was in focus in the last episode. We learned in detail how oily substances can be used to soak disease-causing impurities for their expulsion through appropriate gastrointestinal orifices. This calls for the liquefaction of the impurities through Bahya Snehana and Svedana therapies. What are these therapies and what purpose do they serve? Answer to these and related questions form the content of this episode. Let us first examine Bahya Snehana procedure.
Bahya Snehana, the external application of oily substances, can be performed in several ways. Of these, Abhyanga, the oil massage, is an important method that is widely practiced. Abhyanga is defined as the application of oil on the body in the direction of the hair. In Abhyanga, the physician or masser takes a small quantity of warm oil in the palm. It is then applied first on the patient's head, ears, and finally on the feet. The massaging of the whole body with oil is known as Sarvanga Abhyanga. It has to be performed on the patient while the patient adopts 7 different postures. First, when the patient is in the sitting position with fully extended lower limbs. Second, when the patient is in the supine position with fully extended limbs. The third application of Sarvanga Abhyanga has to be carried out with the patient in the left lateral position, that is, lying down on the left with extended right arm. The fourth position is the supine position with extended limbs. This is followed by the right lateral position, that is, lying down on the right with extended left arm. The sixth Sarvanga Abhyanga position is again in the supine posture. Finally, the patient is massaged by making him sit upright with extended lower limbs as done in the first position. In each of the positions, oil is applied on the body using long strokes. Then, with 2 palms, the body is massaged. The entire process is continued for a certain duration depending on Rogi Bala, the strength of the patient, and Roga Bala, the severity of the disease.
Abhyanga retards aging, prevents fatigue, and controls Vata. It also enhances visual acuity, general nourishment, and lifespan, besides inducing sleep and improving skin texture and complexion. Abhyanga is contraindicated in the case of patients suffering from Kapha Roga, that is, disorders due to morbid Kapha, indigestion, and those who have just undergone Vamana and Virejana therapies. Apart from Abhyanga, there are other ways of performing Bahya Snehana. They are Kadivasti, Grivavasti, Urovasti, Karnapuranam, Shirovasti, and Pichu. Let us now have a look at each of these procedures.
The word Kadi means the lower back region, and Kadi Vasti is the retention of warm oil in the lower back region. As a first step to the therapeutic procedure of Kadi Vasti, a strip made of black gram powder is pasted around the affected part of the patient. In the cavity, warm oil is then poured and retained for about half an hour. Kadi Vasti is prescribed for patients suffering from lower backache due to degenerative and inflammatory spinal disorders and intervertebral disc collapse. In the Griva Vasti procedure too, oil is retained in the region of the Griva, the neck. Griva Vasti is carried out on patients suffering from cervical spondylosis. In the Urovasti procedure, oil is retained in the region of the urus, that is, the anterior chest wall. This procedure is carried out in cases of costochondritis and trauma of the chest. In Karna Puranam, oil is retained in the karna, that is, the ear. It is done in the cases of earache, impaction of cerumen, tinnitus, etc. Shirovasti involves retention of a large quantity of warm oil on the shiras, the head. Here, instead of a strip made of black gram powder paste, a specially designed cap holds the oil. Shirovasti procedure is followed in cases of head and neck diseases. It is specifically indicated in hemiplegia and facial paralysis. Prior to performing Shirovasti, the patient has to be subjected to Snehana and Swedana therapies. Care should be taken to ensure that the Swedana process does not affect the eyes. After completing Swedana, the sweat should be wiped off. For the retention of the oil, a piece of cloth coated with a paste of black gram powder should be tied around the head, just above the ears. Over it, a cap shaped out of rexine or leather has to be placed. Another piece of cloth coated with black gram powder needs to be tied around the head to prevent the oil from leaking out. Once the cap is secured, medicated oil warmed to the body temperature of the patient should be poured into the cap up to a height of a quarter inch above the skull. The oil should be kept on the head for about 45 minutes to 1 hour. Another Bahya Snehana procedure is Pichu, which involves keeping a cloth soaked in warm oil on the affected part of the body. To maintain heat, warm oil has to be intermittently poured onto the cloth. Pichu is indicated in local inflammatory conditions.
As a result of Bahya Snehana, the vitiated dosha in the body are further soaked with oily substances. Bahya Snehana should be followed by Swedana or sudation therapy. Swedana is performed to liquefy the soaked dosha in the body and to bring them to the koshta, that is the gastrointestinal tract. The word Sweda means sweat, and Swedana is the process by which the body is made to perspire. It is defined as the procedure which produces Sweda, that is sweat, and nullifies Stamba, that is stiffness, Gaurava, that is heaviness, Shita, that is coldness. Svedana improves digestive power, softness of the body and complexion of skin. It restores the urge to relish food and opens up the channels. Also, it inhibits excessive sleep, reduces stiffness of the joints and restores their mobility. Svedana can be broadly classified into two groups, Snigdha Sveda and Ruksha Sveda. In the case of Snigdha Sveda, oil is applied and the body is warmed up so as to make it perspire. Ruksha Sveda, on the other hand, is performed without the application of oil. Svedana can also be classified as Agneya Svedana and Anagneya Svedana. In Agneya Svedana, sweating is induced by direct application of heat, whereas in Anagneya Svedana, sweating is induced without the application of heat. There are four modes of application of heat in Agneya Svedana. These are Tapa Sveda, Upanaha Sveda, Ushma Sveda and Drava Sveda. Let us now examine each of these procedures of Agneya Svedana.
Tapa Sveda, the first type of Agneya Svedana, can be performed in different ways. Palms could be rubbed together and the heat so produced could be applied onto the affected part. Such an application of heat is called Pani Sveda. Hot sand tied in a cloth and made into a bolus could also be used to heat the affected part. Such a procedure of applying heat is known as Valuka Sveda. Without using hot sand, heat could also be provided by applying a hot cloth on the body. This method is called Vasana Sveda. The heat application procedure where boluses containing hot brick powder are used is referred to as Kapala Sveda. The second Agneya Svedana method is Upanaha Sveda, which involves application of herbal paste on the affected part of the patients. The paste could be made from a variety of herbs, including Vaja, Shatahua and Devadaru. By mixing the powdered herbs with lemon juice, decoction, salt and oil, a paste can be obtained. This paste so obtained has to be heated prior to its application on oil-smeared and warmed leaves of either Eranda, Arka or Dhatura. These leaves have to be bandaged on the affected part. The bandage has to be retained for 12 hours. Upanaha Sveda should be performed either in the morning or in the evening. The third method of Agneya Sveda is Ushma Sveda. In this process, leaves of Sigru, Eranda, Dhatura, Arka, Vrikshamla and Nirgundi, along with cereals or else the meat of goat or fish, are to be heated and made into a bolus. The bolus so made could be applied on the affected part of the body. Drava Sveda is the fourth type of Agneya Sveda. In this process, hot medicated liquids like dhanyamla or kashaya or milk can be used in two ways. It could be poured on the patient's body. This method of applying medicated liquid is known as Parishega Sveda. In the second method, known as Avagaha Sweda, the patient is made to sit in a bathtub filled with the hot medicated liquid.
Having discussed the different types of Agneya Svedana, let us now study the second type of Svedana called Anagneya Svedana, in which the body is made to perspire without direct application of heat. Ayurveda classics mention 10 ways of Anagneya Svedana. These are Vyayama, whereby the patient is made to perspire through exercise. Ushna Sadanam involves keeping the patient in a non-ventilated room. In Guru Pravaranam, heavy woolen blankets are wrapped to induce perspiration. Kshut is a way of inducing sweat by keeping the patient hungry for a certain period. Bahupana involves drinking of excess quantity of medicated wine. In Bhaya, patients are exposed to fear so as to make them sweat. In Krodha, the patient is angered. In Upanaha, bandages are used to induce sweat. Ahava involves engaging the patient in the game of boxing. Adaba is a simple procedure of exposing the patient to sunlight so as to make them sweat. Acharya Charaga has classified Svedana into 13 types. These are Sankara Sweda, Prastara Sweda, Nadi Sweda, Parisheka Sweda, Avagaha Sweda, Jembaga Sweda, Ashmakhana Sweda, Karshu Sweda, Kudi Sweda, Bhu Sweda, Kumbhi Sweda, Kupa Sweda and Holaga Sweda. Let us now briefly examine each of these 13 categories.
In the Sankara Sweda process, powders of certain herbs and rice made into a bolus are used. In Prastara Sweda, the patient is made to lie down on a bed made of grain husk or rice cooked in milk and covered with leaves of medicinal plants. In Nadi Sweda, the affected part of the body is fermented with the vapor of medicated water. In Parisheka Sweda, warm medicated water or decoction is showered on the body. In Avagaha Sweda, the patient is made to sit in a tub filled with Vada alleviating liquids. Jentaga Sweda is the process by which the patient is fermented in a specially designed chamber. In Ashmaghana Sweda, a stone slab is heated with firewood having the property of alleviating Vata. On the heated slab, hot water is poured to produce vapor, and the patient is made to lie down. In Karshu, the patient is allowed to lie down on a cot which is placed above a pit filled with burning charcoal. In Kudi Sweda, fermentation is carried out in a non-ventilated room. Bhu Sweda is similar to Ashmaghana Sweda, but here the patient is made to lie down on heated soil instead of a hot stone slab. In Kumbhi Sweda, the patient is made to lie down on a well-vented cot placed over a half-buried pot containing steaming hot decoction. In Kuba Sweda, the patient is fermented from the heat produced by burnt animal dung kept in a pit. Holaga Sweda is very similar to Kuba Sweda. The only difference is that the animal dung is kept on the ground instead of a pit.
So far we have discussed various methods of Svedana mentioned in classical texts of Ayurveda. Let us now understand the indications and contraindications of Svedana. According to Ashtanga Hridaya, Svedana is indicated in bronchial asthma, cough, sinusitis, hiccough, flatulence, constipation, hoarseness of voice, disorders of Vata, Kapha and Ama. It is also indicated for stiffness, heaviness, general body ache, hemiplegia, low back pain, hernia, sciatica, convulsions, dysuria, tumors, etc. And Svedana is contraindicated in patients with excessive pitta and rakta, obesity, roughness, diarrhea, jaundice, anemia, erysipelas, diabetes, abscess, coma, trauma, pregnancy, ascites, and those who are frightened, lean and under stress. It is also contraindicated in the cases of poisoning, alcohol abuse, cataract, skin diseases, edema, thirst and hunger. In cases of women patients, Svedana is not performed during their menstrual period. It should not be performed when the patient has consumed milk, curd, oil and honey. Svedana is avoided in the case of those who have just undergone purgation therapy. In general, Svedana is performed in a non-ventilated room after the patient has digested the previous meal. Areas like eyes, heart and scrotum should not be exposed to Svedana. The process of Svedana should be continued till sammik svinna lakshana, that is, till the optimum fermentation signs are observed. These signs include relief from coldness, pain, stiffness, heaviness, adequate perspiration and adequate softness and flexibility of body parts. Normally, Svedana is done for 1 day before Vamana and for 3 days before Virechana. If Svedana is not successful, it should be repeated. Excessive Svedana causes vitiation of pitta and rakta. It may also cause thirst, coma, weakness of body and voice, joint pain, fever, erythema, vomiting, etc. In such cases, fermentation should be stopped immediately. Cold substances like paste of chandana should be applied on the patient's body. They should also be made to drink water boiled with jaggery and laja rice. When proper Svedana is attained, sweat is wiped off and the patient is asked to take rest and then advised to bathe. The do's and don'ts of Svedana are the same as those of Abhyantara Snehana, which were detailed in the last episode. Let us just recall the pathya and apathya of the treatment. First of all, patients have to be on a controlled diet. They should abstain from heavy and spicy food, should not sleep during daytime, should sleep well in the night, should not stop natural urges and should not indulge in sex. As explained earlier, Bahyasnehana and Svedana further liquefies the vitiated dosha and bring them to the gastrointestinal tract for expulsion from the body. Besides Purvakarma procedures described in the classic Ayurvedic texts, there are other techniques developed by Ayurveda scholars in Kerala. These specialized Purvakarma procedures are being practiced throughout India now. These are also a part of Ayurveda curriculum in Indian universities. In the next episode, we will discuss these specialized methods in detail. Before we wind up the session, let us summarize what we have learned so far. We learned that Abhyanga is the process of application of oil on the body in the direction of hair. We also discussed the process of Abhyanga and its indication as well as contraindications. Then we had a brief look at the other Bahyasnehana methods. We then defined Svedana as the process which produces sweat and nullifies Stambha, Gaurava and Shita. We learned that Svedana is performed in different ways, namely Snigdha Svedana, Ruksha Svedana, Agneya Svedana and Anagneya Svedana. Agneya Svedana, in which heat is applied directly, can be performed in 4 different ways, which are known as Tapa Sveda, Upanaha Sveda, Ushma Sveda and Drava Sveda. We had a look at the other type of Svedana, namely Anagneya Svedana, in which heat is not applied directly. As you may recall, we also learned of the 13 varieties of Svedana described by Acharya Charaka. We also discussed the indications, contraindications, the do's and don'ts and effect of Svedana. In addition to these Purvakarma procedures, there are certain procedures developed in Kerala. Details of these will be dealt in the third episode. Until then, read the books suggested here and answer the questions. Take care.
Here are some books for reference. Charaga Samhita by Agnivesha, published by Chaukamba Surbharati Prakashan, Varanasi. Sushruta Samhita by Sushruta, published by Chaukamba Orientalia, Varanasi, 1998. Ashtanga Samgraha by Vriddha Vagbhada, published by the Central Council for Research in Ayurveda and Siddha, New Delhi, 1998. Ashtanga Hridaya by Vagbhada, published by Krishnadas Academy, Varanasi, 1982. Ayurvedic Treatments of Kerala by Ashtavaidya Vayaskara N.S. Moose, published by Vaidya Sarathi Press Private Limited, Kottayam, 1983. The Legacy of Charaka by Dr. M.S. Valiyathan, published by Orient Longman Private Limited, Chennai, 2004. The questions to be answered are: what is the importance of Snehana and Svedana in Panchakarma? What is Bahya Snehana? Mention any 4 methods of Bahya Snehana. Explain Abhyanga. Write the contraindications of Abhyanga. What is the difference between Snigdha Sweda and Ruksha Sweda? Differentiate between Agneya Svedana and Anagneya Svedana. List out the various methods involved in them. Describe Ushma Svedana. List out the different types of Svedana as explained by Acharya Charaka. Explain Samyak Svinna Lakshana. Write short notes on Kadivasti, Karna Puranam, Shirovasti, Piju and Dravasveda.
Welcome to the session on Organization of Knowledge, Library Classification. In this session, we will discuss species of library classification. The primary use of the scheme of library classification is the intellectual organization, storage and retrieval units of thought and information. S.R. Ranganathan highlights 4 purposes of library classification. First one, storage of information in helpful sequence. Second, retrieval on demand or in anticipation of demand information pinpointedly, exhaustively and expeditiously without the admixture of any irrelevant information. Next, balanced selection of books and other reading materials for a library in close correlation to the interests of its clientele. Fourth one, formation of special topic sequence in the library to meet the needs of particular groups of readers exactly and without loss of readers' time and tempo. Khanna, 1994. Species of library classification.
For the purpose of classifying documents in the library, a number of schemes with different structures of universe of knowledge are available. It will be interesting to study the difference found in each of them and group those having resemblance into one kind of species. The classification schemes can be broadly classified into two groups. They are 1. Enumerative classification scheme, 2. Faceted classification scheme. Enumerative classification scheme. Enumerative classification scheme is a scheme of classification in which the universe of subject is divided into a number of simple and compound classes. The dictionary meaning of enumeration is to list or count. It consists of single schedule enumerating all subjects of the past, the present and the anticipated future. It means that the class number of different subjects is enumerated in the schedule. There is no separate supplementary schedule of common isolates to construct a number. Example 1. Library of Congress classification LC 1905. 2. Riders International classification RIC 1961. Dewey Decimal classification DDC 1876. Types of enumerative classification schemes. There are two types of enumerative classification schemes: purely enumerative classification scheme and almost enumerative classification scheme. Purely enumerative classification scheme. It consists of single schedule enumerating all subjects of the past, the present and the anticipated future. Ranganathan 1956. It is long schedule, but it is very difficult to accommodate newly emerging subjects in a filiatory sequence among existing sequence. The class numbers are not broken down into facets using meaningful connecting symbols. So it is monolithic.